every single American citizen. Listen to this right here.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact are kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go, and then people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
No.
Now, obviously, there are some people
Bullshit.
who are prepared to implement change in other ways, and that's
You're
really
questioning
dangerous.
really if democracy can survive unregulated social media.
I think democracies are very challenged right now, and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing.
Bullshit.
To me, that is part of what this race,
First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, buddy.
Break the fever in the United States.
Wow. So
freedom of speech. Bullshit. They're trying to get rid of that.
If you stick around, I promise you this is going to be a video that you can share with everybody, and it is going to be a exercise in understanding why our framers, our founding fathers, the brilliant people who created the greatest constitutional republic that's ever existed, why they implemented and wrote the Bill of Rights and constituted the First Amendment. But really, just in case you're wondering what just happened there, and this is not a drill. I mean, this is so blatantly dangerous. That is John Kerry. He's the former Secretary of State under the Obama administration, who is literally saying that you, me, and all Americans are too stupid to think for ourselves, and that the First Amendment essentially is a blockade. His words is a blockade for them to get their quote-unquote consensus of what is right and what is true. If that's not totalitarianism, I don't know what is. He's literally asking and requesting. This is a former secretary, a state secretary in our United States government. This guy's been in politics. He's been a leftist Marxist. I mean, I say Marxist because there's this ideology is what's perpetuated this for his entire life. I mean, this guy was a huge Vietnam protester back in the 70s. I mean, for him to say that the First Amendment and that Americans should not self-select, literally the antithesis of what Ralph Waldo Emerson, Walt Whitman, our great thinkers, our great writers, our great poets, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin said is our sovereignty, our critical thinking. Aristotle is something I talk a lot about because I taught Aristotle's principles of rhetoric at the university, or should I say, AKA indoctrination camps, which is why I left. Ethos, pathos, logos, audience, purpose, message. He is essentially saying we should eradicate all of that Americans can't think for themselves. We need to tell them what the facts are. They just believe this quote-unquote sick, broadcasters, sick news sources. I mean, it's just so anti-American. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments down below. But I also want to share this, which is something I put together some notes that you guys know I love notes. And essentially, this is sort of my kind of take on, why it's so important that we have a constitution, why these amendments and this amazing, beautiful document written in the 18th century by our forebears is exactly the kind of protection we need from this insanity. And so I'm gonna kind of zoom in here a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Just bear with me. I am not at my usual studio, so I'm traveling. It's my wife and I's anniversary. We're celebrating it, 13 years of marriage. I married the most amazing woman of all time. Thank you so much. I got a lot of your congratulations in the comments from the previous video. Love you guys so much. Okay, so here's some notes that I think this is where I feel this video is so worthy of being shared, because I think there's a lot of Americans, there's even statistics that show a lot of our young people, which makes me so scared for our youth. They don't even have the basic tenets of what the Constitution embodies, and they know nothing about history. The First Amendment to the United States is the cornerstone of American democracy, enshrining several fundamental freedoms. Here's a quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech." These are the very things that our forefathers were up against, and why they initiated the Revolutionary Act, which spawned the greatest constitution, the greatest republic in all of mankind. Let me give you a little bit of history and background, okay? So the origins of our Constitution, and particularly the First Amendment, was born from the origins are in tyranny. So the First Amendment was born from the experiences of the American colonists under British rule, where freedom of speech, religion, and press were frequently suppressed. I want you to really look at this and critically think about this. It's impossible not to draw parallels to what's happening right now with Kamala Harris, Biden. Remember, Carrie is a part of that entire elitist cabal that looks down on 95% of the country, okay? They only relate to people like them. They only care about people like them, power-hungry academics who really just stuff their nose at the rest of us, normal, everyday Americans. The British government often censored colonial newspapers, punished seditious libel, and imposed religious conformity. So the origins were in tyranny. Then you have the Constitutional Convention. We're sick of this. This is when the framers of the Constitution met in 1787. There was initially no Bill of Rights. However, anti-federalists like Thomas Jefferson argued that without protections for individual liberties, the new government might also become oppressive. One of my favorite philosophers, thinkers, individuals, heroes, Thomas Jefferson, the original composer of the Declaration of Independence, a poetic majesty of words, conviction, principles, and values. He's literally saying here that without these protections, the reason we have the First Amendment is to literally protect Americans for time immemorial, because the new government might also become oppressive. Let me highlight that. Absolutely important. Remember this as we go further. Defending the amendment. James Madison, often called the father of the Constitution, drafted the Bill of Rights, including what would become the First Amendment. His original proposal was even broader, but it was refined through debates. Healthy, constructive, critical thinking debates. That's what our country is founded on. I wish we could get back to that. It's just common sense. It's the America we grew up in. I think these woke ideologies, these Marxist, leftist, radical communist ideas have infected our country, and we can't even talk to our family members, our neighbors, our coworkers, without there being this unbelievable red line in the sand of, I can't even talk to you, I hate you, and the violence and vitriol, which has been augmented by the left, not the right, the left. I dare you to go to any Trump rally, Remember, we had that Trump rally participant in the Butler, Pennsylvania rally, the horrific tragedy on July 13th, where she said it was her first Trump rally before the craziness happened. And she said she never felt more loved and accepted. She was a former Democrat. She said it was a love fest. Most of the vitriol comes from the left. Okay, then you have the adoption. The First Amendment, along with the rest of the Bill of Rights, was adopted on December 15th, 1791. It reads, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. You and I have this right as American citizens, as do my parents who are legal immigrants who immigrated into this country into the early 70s and then had me and my brother. We have this right as American citizens. We have the right to express ourselves, as do, and by the way, Carrie's attacking people like me. He's essentially saying the reason we can't govern, people self-select. He's talking about media entities like me, independent grassroots media companies who are doing their own due diligence, their own critical thought, and sharing that. I have a right to do that. And if Elon Musk had not bought Twitter and turned it into S, which is literally the most free social media platform out there, follow me on X, at Professor Nens. You see my title down here. I'm at Professor Nens. You should follow me there because I post a lot of stuff I can't post anywhere else. If he hadn't have bought Twitter, the same stuff they did in 2020 would be going rampant. If you're unfamiliar with the Twitter files, so much has come out before Elon bought Twitter, where they suppressed and censored not only the Biden laptop story, but millions of other journalists, independent citizen media like myself, and a whole lot more. So we have this right. This is what's protecting us. The importance and significance. Protection against government overreach. What's the importance and significance of these amendments, especially specifically the First Amendment? The framers understood that for a democracy to function, people must be able to speak freely about government policies, criticize leaders without fear, worship or not as they see fit, and publish their thoughts. This is why I exist and many other channels and independent media organizations exist. We are allowed to publish our thoughts. It used to be that they would write books about them, but now as the medium has, been basically evolved through technology, there's other means. This amendment was designed to prevent the government from silencing dissent or establishing a state religion, which were common practices in many parts of the world. It also promotes a marketplace of ideas. The concept here is that truth and reason emerge from the competition of ideas and a free, transparent public discourse, i.e. the online social media ecosystem. This is literally written for that. Freedom of speech ensures that all viewpoints can be heard and debated. You can't lie about somebody. That's why we have defamation statutes. You can't spread lies, okay? You can't spread libel, but you're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to say, hey, you know what? I have some questions about this, and these are my findings, and I want to share them with you. It doesn't mean that you can't critically think for yourself, which is your sovereignty as not only an American citizen, but as a human being, that you can't say, you know what, Professor Nez, you're full of crap. You can say that. You're full of shite, Professor Nez. You can say that. You have the right to say that. But I have the right to share my opinion, as does you and anybody else. And I can publish that. And the competition of ideas is what brings that public discourse and that transparency. And if we don't have anything to combat the woke, fake, mainstream media, then they have control, they have power. Foundation for other freedoms. Free speech acts as a foundation for other rights. Without the ability to speak out, assemble, or petition, other rights could be easily undermined. So this is sort of a catalyst a beautiful foundation, a fundamental freedom that spawns other freedoms. Cultural impact. Over time, the First Amendment has shaped American culture to value open debate, artistic expression. You know, Gavin Newsom is signing into some law that you can't create memes. You can't create artificial intelligent memes. Because why? Because most of those memes are aimed towards him and his cabal of anti American heathens. He wants to pass a law saying that you can't make fun, you can't lampoon, you cannot engage in satire through AI, which is essentially saying, in simpler terms, no more SNL in California, essentially. It's insane. This is why our government is based on these civil liberties that nobody can trample on. Even these power hungry mongers who, the swamp, who are in power right now, hopefully not for long. It has been at the heart of numerous landmark Supreme Court cases that expanded or clarified these freedoms. And the press's role is a watchdog for the government. Oh, I love this. Global influence. The First Amendment has also inspired freedom of expression, clauses in constitutions around the world influencing global standards for human rights. Why is it that we see so many people pouring into our country? They're not pouring into Russia. They're not pouring into Mexico, Canada, Africa. No, they're coming here because we are the model. We are the lighthouse to the world. We are the ones who are shining this beacon of a constitutional republic, a society that is built on the fundamentals of freedom and civil liberties. Other countries that have followed this have prospered as well. And other countries who have done the exact opposite have created famine and God knows how many countless calamities. It's been, I mean, history is a very beautiful truth, a beacon for the rest of the world. History reflects and history shows. It's a track record. It's a way of having these transcripts that we can depend on, data, analysis that show who's on the right side in hindsight and retrospect. And countless times, America's idea of society, America's idea of the inalienable rights of human beings has always come first and foremost. Final thoughts. The First Amendment wasn't just a legal formality, but a revolutionary declaration that in America, the power of governance comes from the people, you, me, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And thus, the people must have the freedom to speak, think, and worship freely. And I am appalled, as would be our founding fathers, at what John Kerry just implicated at this World Economic Forum, saying that the First Amendment is a blockade, that we must win at all costs. We must be able to govern again, which is essentially, if you translate that and you take out the semantic gymnastics, he's essentially saying that Americans don't deserve these rights, these inalienable rights that our Constitution has translated and created for us. He's saying we shouldn't have that anymore. We shouldn't have that right. We don't know what's good for us. We're too stupid to tell the truth. I mean, I remember my grandfather saying, don't believe everything you read in your papers. Remember that? Don't believe everything you read in the papers. So what's the difference here? We just have it on scale now. The internet has connected billions of people in a very fast, easy, convenient way at scale, okay? And they're losing control. That's the only reason John Kerry would say something like this. And then I want to end on this, and I can't wait to get your thoughts. Benjamin Franklin, another amazing quote that speaks volumes and denounces indirectly what John Kerry just said. He should be absolutely ashamed of himself. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. Freedom of speech is a principal pillar of a free government. When this support is taken away, the constitution of a free society is dissolved, and tyranny is erected on its ruins. Our founding father, Benjamin Franklin. My fellow Americans, they're going after Elon Musk. They're going after people like me. They're banning and censoring us on multiple levels in multiple ways, shapes, and forms. If Kamala Harris, and by the way, John Kerry reflects everything because it all comes down from above. Kamala Harris has not had original thought in her head in decades. It all comes down from above. It's the Clinton, Obama, Soros cabal, the consortium that really controls all of this. And they have a consensus. They have all the talking points. Everything has been premeditated and pre-rehearsed, and they want that for you and me. I'm begging you, America, our freedoms, our liberties are on the line. I am not being hyperbolic. I'm not being dramatic. We must take action November 5th. It is our only choice, our only chance to save this republic. I mean that with every fiber of my being. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this. Am I wrong? I'm happy to be wrong. I welcome all opposing views. Leave your comments. I want my comment section to be this thriving, engaging, collaborative discussion. The discourse, the very discourse that Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and our founding fathers spoke of. I want it to be engaging. Personal ad hominem attacks, I don't even pay attention. You go right to the spam box. You're gone. See ya. Wouldn't want to be in. We need to talk again in this country, especially to people who oppose our views, because they have been brainwashed by the mainstream media. They have been hypnotized by the propagandist machine. That is, indisputable. So I welcome your viewpoints. I welcome all from my fellow Americans. And please, let's not attack each other. Let's talk to each other. Engage. Back it up with evidence. Why do you believe what you believe? And I'll tell you why I believe what you believe. And we can maybe come to some understanding. We got a country to save. Check out these videos coming up on the screen right here. Subscribe and follow over there. Sign up for our free newsletter in the pinned comment down below. It's free. And as always, may God bless you and may God bless America. I'll see you soon.